Good morning, everybody. This webinar is about using Bluebeam Revu for quantity takeoffs. I'm David Haynes. My background is a registered architect and project management certified professional. My resume includes running an architectural practice and being a commercial general contractor for over 15 years. I graduated from the University of Arizona and have worked as a project manager, contractor, developer, and construction manager for a national retailer. I currently provide business process analysis, data integration, and management solutions for AEC clients across the United States involved in the AEC industry. Sash Kazmijad will be serving as a proctor today for this webinar. Please place any questions you have into the Q&A window in your GoToWebinar console. We'll be stopping a couple of times during the webinar to go through those questions, but Sash will also be typing in answers if they, as he goes along. This webinar is sponsored by ID8. ID8 Incorporated has been serving the AEC community for over 25 years. This longevity comes from our unflagging commitment to quality training, support, and your customer service. Our technical staff has extensive industry experience, so we understand your processes and business issues. Our goal really is to make you more productive in your work. It's why services are such an important part of our business. It's also why we provide these recordings and webinars. I encourage you to visit our website, check out our blogs, and follow us on YouTube and Twitter. All right, here's our agenda today, and it'll focus on the following: why you should be interested in using Revu for quantity takeoffs. We will also review some basics on using measurements and markups. Layers will also be discussed as a method to isolate QTO markups from other markups. I will also be showing several strategies for quantity takeoffs that you may use. We'll also review tool sets and tool chests as well as calculated columns. In order to see our takeoffs, we'll review three main ways to do that. One is via export CSV, second is legends, and finally, using a more direct link between Excel and Revu, which is part of Revu Extreme. And then of course, we'll have the final Q&A. What kind of challenges are you facing with the PDFs you receive in order to get quantities? Are you using a variety of workflows and methodologies to get those quantities? Maybe you're doing it manually, using the ever-reliant fingers and toes, or just counting in your head. Or maybe using markers. That's really old school, but still seen in our industry. Or using multiple softwares to try and keep track of the quantities. What happens when there's a change? It's really all about accuracy, the ability to count only once and have less mistakes, and creating a stronger workflow using the Excel link, a program on everybody's desktop. Now let us look at Bluebeam Revu and how it can give you QTO and keep track of what you counted when it changes. All right. All right, so we're going to start off with reviewing some of the basics regarding markups. For those of you who are really familiar with markups, this will be just old hat to you. For others of you, maybe you'll pick up some tips, but let's go through it just to make sure that we have a good foundation. I am using Bluebeam Revu 2018, just so everybody knows, and I'm also using it with a light screen. We find it works a little better with webinars to go with a light screen than a black screen, but other than that, it's pretty much standard out of the box. So the first thing when we get a PDF like this, and this is a sample PDF, it has a few markups, as you can see, but not very many. It wouldn't matter if there was lots of them. I just want to focus on markups dealing with quantity takeoff. So there's three main ways to start your first step. And really the first step is calibration. You need, especially if you're going to do area measurements, you're going to need to have this be accurate. So there's three ways to do calibration. One is here, tools, measure, calibrate. That's the one I use most often, doesn't need to be your way. There is here in the left menu, right here, let's click that again. Under this measurement left panel, here's calibrate right there. And then one that I didn't know till I was preparing for this, here under keyboard shortcuts, if I search for calibrate, calibrate is allowed. There's no shortcut that's been set by out of the box by Bluebeam, but I could create one there, so I could just use a keyboard shortcut. There's 3 ways. Anyway, the other key part of this is that we need to, when doing accurate area measurements or linear measurements of any type or sort, we need to make sure that we are snapping to the content, meaning we're snapping to intersections of walls. And that is shown here in the view down at the very bottom, snap to content. I'm going to turn that on. That's important for us to do. And that's really for vector-based drawings, meaning ones that have been created by vector-based. If you've gotten a PDF that's maybe been created by a very cheap PDF creator, you may not be able to snap to the content. Then I'll show you another way we're going to want to do. All right, the next thing is we're going to calibrate this to get a scale. Also with vector-based, calibrate will work very well, but you can also use typed in for not vector-based. All right, so let's do a quick calibration so we just kind of get, because it's so important. You have to find either a dimension or something that you know the dimension of. I'm going to use this 5-foot dimension. And since this is open, I'm going to use calibrate here. I will get this, select 2 points. And now since I can snap to content, I'm going to be able to find the 2 points. I could just take it from here too, right? There and there. And now it says, oh, 1 foot? No, it's not 1 foot. Let's see, what was it? It was 4'4", 4'4" inches. Okay. And I think it's always best to come back in and do a verification. And that's done with the tools. And let's come up here to dimension right here under the markups. And this verify. Again, because I'm snapping to content, this should work out fairly well. And now this shows that I'm hitting to it and it's 4'4". I'm in good shape. All right, so we've calibrated. You know, you could always calibrate the second time just to be sure. Let's do that just for the sake of this. So we go up here, tools, markups, dimension. Let's take this 6'5". And it looks like we're fine. All right, so now let's look at all the measurement possibilities that we have. Again, here, there's 2 places. In the standard review kind of profile, you will see that you have these that happen over here. See, there's a poly length, there's an area, there's a length, and there's a count. Okay, we could do it that way. In fact, we could check our length here one more time just to be absolutely sure. Yeah. So I'm good to go there. All right, but most people use here the tools, measure, and here under the tools, measure, pull down, we get the different types. And I'm going to go through 3, though you could use any of them. The first one we're going to use is area. So let me find something that I want to find the area of. Now that I've done all of that good stuff, let's come over here. Give me just a second here to get this sort of centered and a little larger. All right. Tools, measure, area. All right, I'm actually choosing this room right here, because notice here it's got a problem. The reason I'm doing that is to show you what I can do if I've mispicked, meaning I don't really get the right area. I can come in here and I guess when I want it to pick poorly, I pick well, and when I want to pick well, I pick poorly. If I select this, you see that little blue dot right there? It's a little hard to see, but you can see it. I can start to move that around. So if the intersection was really over here, I could do that and it would adjust the area. But actually where I had it before is where I want it. All right. We'll go through customizing these in just a second. I want to go through the 3 that I want to show you, and then I'll show you how to customize each one, because customization through the property toolbar is a great way to have a look and feel that you like. The next one I want to do is in this bathroom, there's some floor to ceiling wall covering we're going to put on. We're going to put a very hard cover on these because these are going to get used and we don't want to have to repaint it. So I'm going to use tools, measure, and actually what I'm going to use is perimeter. You may say, why is David using perimeter? Well, what's really interesting about the perimeter is I can also get wall area out of it. So that's what I want there. This is the property, dynamic property toolbar. We'll be dealing more with that in just a second. But I want the wall area and I don't want the length. There we go. So now again, I do the same thing I did before, which is, and now I hit enter to finish, and it's giving me a wall area. Okay, that's good. And then lastly, I'm into counting sinks because sinks are really what I'm interested in. So I want to count sinks too. Just in this area, we could do it across the entire plan, but I'm just kind of giving you sort of a quick tour of this. Measure, there's also count right down here. By the way, if I don't like these very long kind of Shift Alt C for count, I can go through the keyboard shortcuts and modify them. I won't go through that today. Just wanted to let you know that was possible. If you do a lot of area, maybe you don't like doing Shift Alt A, you could do some other methodology so that area would make it quicker for you to do. So you can quicken up these doing estimates and takeoffs. But for me, I'm just going to pick, and now I am done. All right, so now these all look kind of the same. And so I'm going to want to modify them first. Then I'm going to show you how to use layers. So first we're going to deal with modification, which is just the dynamic property toolbar. And for those of you familiar, this will be a redo. For others, it may be the first time you've seen it. So what I'm able to do when I select, such as this area, the property toolbar is dynamic, meaning it understands what I was trying to do and gives me what I would like to modify in most, but not all the cases. There's a few things that still hide in the property toolbar. Anyway, so I want to make it more yellowish. I want to, I kind of like 40% of as I remember. I don't want to put a hatch on it, and I want to make the title to have a different kind of font, something a little tighter so I can see it, you know, get more information in. So I scrunch it up, and maybe 12 isn't what I'm really interested in, 10 is more interested. All right, let's come back here and see what happened to my, oh, that turned out to be 0. So let's, I kind of like 30%. Why it went to 0, I don't know, but there we go. All right, so now that kind of looks the way I want it to look. Another tip that I'd like to show you is often people ask me about, well, I want to move this. So I'm going to tell you what I do because you'd have to be looking at the keyboard. I select the markup. I put my cursor right here, not up here at the dot, that just rotates, but right here where the takeoff is, I use my shift key down and hold it down, and now I can move this where I'd like to move it to. All right, just a little tip there. Here, the same way, I can make some modifications. We're just going to modify this real quick. Again, it happens in the same kind of way that I showed you with the area. I want to get that smaller, so all right, that's all I did. But I want to now change this because I want it to look different than that. My wall areas or perimeters are to look different. So I can do that by changing the line color. Maybe I want to use green in this case. And maybe instead of a solid line, I want to use a dash line. Okay? See how that then looks different than the other. Help me differentiate them better. And as you know, for those of you familiar with markups, the markup list has been populated. We'll get how to modify that in just a moment. So lastly, we're going to come down here and choose this, and the check marks, not to my liking. So what I really would like to do is instead of check marks, I kind of like circles. Oh, and gee, I really don't want them to be that big. So let's get them a little smaller. Then really what I want to do here is use a purplish kind of color and I can cut the intensity down. So I want to see what's behind it. So there we go. Is this the way you would do it? I don't know, but you can then modify it to what either your company standards are as your personal standards, so you can visually see what you've got. All right, so now what I want to tell you about is layers. And what layers are going to help us do is when we have, let me just bring this markup list up. When we have a lot of markups, and I have very few here, I'm going to get confused between what is things like the date that I put on here and the highlight, which are not in the cloud, which are not quantity takeoff kind of things, and what I did today. And so we can get through layers in several ways, but the way I like to do it is through this left panel. And though it's not there, it's up here, sets. All right, all of you who are familiar with AutoCAD will understand what layers are about. So just keep that in mind. It's not really much different. It just takes these markups and puts them on different layers so they can be modified. For my use today, what I really want to be able to do is to only see my QTO or my takeoff information. Okay? So right here, and we're going to add, and I'm just going to call it QTO. You could name it whatever you wanted to do. You could even separate it out if you're doing takeoffs of different kind of things. You could even further, but I'm just going to right now make it just QTO, and you'll see it's got here. And let me pull this. I have the ability to do several things here. I can look at visibility, meaning I can turn the visibility on and off. We can come in here and lock. And what the lock really does is lock so the title and the default state cannot be changed. And then will the QTO markups be printed? In this case, probably yes, so I leave that alone. And then export. That'll allow these layers to another page if I wanted to. So it's a way of taking layers and moving them. Anyway, so there's also right up here something called configurations, and configurations are really a layer state, very much like AutoCAD, and really the default is loaded when the PDF opens. So we're not going to deal with that today, but you could. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to take all of my items here, and I could do this several ways. I could do it at the beginning, and I'll show you how to do it at the beginning. But let's suppose I've made some errors, or I'm looking at something I've already done and now want to get use of layer. I've selected all of them here. I right-click, layer. There we go. And now they're on layer QTO. All right. So you go, how nice, David. Why should I care? All right. So let's suppose today I'm doing takeoffs. I'm not doing markups to give back to the architect or to the contractor, to the engineer, to any other stakeholder. I'm really dealing with quantity takeoffs today. So it's very easy for me to use the filter. And then when I come in, hit layer, click this, and you see how QTO is there. I click on that, and now all my QTOs are together. I don't get distracted. But now I've done this the long way, meaning I did them and then I changed them. But I want to show you that when I do any given markup, I have a chance in the property toolbox to do something here first. We'll then show you tool chest, which is another way to do it in just a second. Let me find one of my, I think it's over here if I remember correctly. Okay. So let me take this one. And one of the key things about the property toolbar that many people don't understand is this little icon way over here on the left-hand side, upper left. And I'm going to click it down. Do you see how now it has three things? It has the layer, so I could have set that as the default. So every time I did it, it was that way. That'd be nice. Also, I can take this subject and change it from area measurement to flooring, maybe. Okay. If I could spell today, flooring. Okay. And now that changes to flooring. Now this perimeter, remember I wanted that for wall covering. So maybe what I do here is wall covering. All right. and I can change this one. So I can, it's better, quite frankly, my tip is to try and, when you do the property, do this first. If you do the dynamic property toolbar, because then this gets set up. So if you make a mistake, I could always go through, right? And in fact, look what I did. I have these three right here. Remember, I did that for the calibration. I don't need the calibration anymore. So I can either delete them, or maybe what I want to do is I want to keep, sorry about that, there we go. I want to get rid of these two, right? Delete. And I want to change this from layer to none, because really that was just a test. I want to get it out of the QTO side. So again, here I got the QTO. I'm able to see it the way I want to see it, right? And you say, okay, David, I get that, but I do a lot of takeoffs, and boy, you spent a lot of time going through that, and I just want a one button kind of push. All right, the way to do that is tool chests and tool sets. And again, for those of you familiar with this, this is really to leverage what we're going to use later on. So I've kind of decided to give you a refresher course on markups and tool chests. All right, so come back in here, and tool chests are right here. Right, so yours may look different, meaning tool chests are one of those things that are set up via the profile. And in fact, even my review profile that comes out of the box, I've gotten rid or hid some of the out of the box tool chests by unclicking them here. So there's very few I'm really showing because I want to add a new tool chest. I didn't want it to be overcrowded. Secondly, want to make sure that you understand that recent tools are the tools that have been used in this session. They will not be saved to the new Bluebeam session. Anything under my tools or other tool chests will be saved under the profile. And to just tell you, you can take profiles and tool chests and export them. I'm not going to go through that today, but note that we have other webinars we've done that you can check out on a website that goes through that really well. So what I'm going to do here very quickly is create a new. This is the managed tool sets. I'm going to add new. Here's where I'd import or export, but I'm going to add something just called QTO. Again, you could name it whatever you wanted to name it. See how it says here, it's going to be displayed, and I could show it in all profiles if I had multiple profiles but always wanted it. I don't need to do that, so there we go. Let me cancel that out. Yep. Oh, it's wanting me to save it. That's fine. Sorry about that. Okay, now here's QTO. All right, so I have several ways I could add these to it. One is I can take, here's my recent ones, and if there's one I like here, remember that flooring one, I can simply just drag and drop it. Now it is there. I won't go into some of the further issues of how I can modify this. Again, check out one of our webinars, and it'll show you how this can get modified more. And really what we discuss is the difference between property mode and drawing mode. And I want it to be in, sorry, I wanted it to be in properties mode, believe it or not. And so let's suppose this, I'm going to use something simple here again. Now I don't need to recreate everything. I click this, and now with my snap to content on, there we go. The only thing I'd have to do maybe is move that if I needed to. And you see it comes down here. Notice that comes in on the right layer, so on and so on and so on and so on and so forth. So works out really. That's one way I could do it. And really a really great way, if you set it up once and you really kind of like it, you could just drag and drop. Another way, let me go over to my here. Remember we did this wall area kind of thing. So let me select that one. I've selected it. Now I'm right mouse clicking. And now you can see add to tool chest. And you can see now it's there, though the green is just a titch hard to see, but you get what I'm saying. Then in the same way, I could use that and do it. So tool chests are a great way, and tool sets are a great way to get standardization. They can be shared, so on and so forth, and then imported and exported. All right, so that kind of finishes up our are kind of a refresher. Sash, is there any questions based on the refresher stuff that I've done?
Hey, David, great job so far. And just real quickly, thank you everybody for attending. Generally speaking, we don't have many questions. I'm working with a gentleman kind of offline on some
Okay.
tool set questions and kind of
Questions,
some
yeah.
organization, but I'm going to throw a couple at you because I do like
Sure.
lobbing some things over the fence. First one, I'll make one comment. David
Mhm.
showed everybody today how to snap to content by going up to the menus. If you want to, if you also hit F8 on the keyboard or go up to Tools
Oh, is it
and
tools?
then
Okay.
over to Toolbars, and
There we
then
go.
there's a status bar. When you
Let's do
click
that.
on that, yeah,
Let's
let's
just,
do that.
there we go. And let me move this kind of out of the way because you're going to want to, it's
Yeah,
right.
it's down on the bottom, kind of in the very bottom of the screen over there. There are a few
Right here.
options down there where you can snap to content. So it's an easy one that sometimes, depending on which profile you flip over to, you don't see that toolbar. So just that's a good spot to find it. Remember F8 on the keyboard if you don't want to go up to the tools toolbars. And then one that I wanted to just mention, in terms of the wall area where you use the perimeter, can
Mhm.
you explain to people how it calculated area since a perimeter is essentially a length?
Well, that's a great question. How did it, Sash?
Yeah, through the properties, right? So even though
Really?
he drew a length in there, let's look at the properties of that markup to see if there is a height requirement in there. And let's see here.
Document.
Where is that? It's there. It's got to be
Is there?
somewhere.
Yeah, where is it?
Yeah.
I meant to show
Uh,
it and I just slipped on right past it. So,
Yeah, I'll dink around and get back to it
yeah.
because there are specific properties for that markup that will allow you to set that length there. So I'll get
Huh,
back to the audience
isn't
on
it
that one.
interesting? It's not where you or I both thought it would be.
Right. It could be also, if I remember correctly, under the calibration part of it.
That's right. That's a good thing. Let's look under calibration while we're
It's Yeah, and I think it is. You see the depth right there. That's where it's at. It's
there
not
you
the
go.
most intuitive because you would
No.
expect it to be
So let's
under
suppose
the.
it's 10 feet instead, and you see
There it
how the
is.
markup
Yep.
changed.
So in my mind, I want it to be under properties because you're selecting the properties of the markup, but remember to
Sure.
go to the calibration for that.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for reminding me where it's at. I want it to be in the same place you did.
Right.
All right, we'll carry on. Thank you, Sash. So now we're going to deal with some calculated columns in order to do a takeoff, ability to use a formula to do takeoff. So let me close this. We're done with it. We won't need it anymore. And let's go over here to a plan, roof plan, if it'll open for me. There we go. And let's make it show full. All right, so what I've done in this one already, just to take us, so we didn't have to do it again, is I've measured, I've done a measurement to verify it. This I've added just so you, I wouldn't have to have this on here. It's a JPEG, quite frankly, is how most of this roof is 4 and 12, and a 4 and 12 has a factor from flat to pitched of 1.055, and so you'll figure this is just to show you how I got the number I got, or going to get. Maybe this is a better way. All right, so custom columns are down here in the markups. And as you can see here, I have one length measurement and I have image and some, so I don't have very many markups in this one again. All right, custom columns. I can add columns to this. It's done through the markup list, columns, manage all columns, right down here at the bottom. There's a display over the regular columns. And now I want to add a custom column because I want to do a roofing takeoff of this plan, and it's flat. And as if I just did straight areas, I would not have enough roofing material. And so I use this as an example. You could use any methodology where a calculation is used. And in estimating, often we use calculations to take care of either waste factors or other ways of taking flat 2D and making them in real life 3D. And that's why the roofing one is a good example. So let's start. Add. And I'm just going to call this roofing area. And there's types, and I want it to be a formula. And now here under expression, here's another tip. When you type A, because I want area, don't continue typing. I find if I try and type it, it'll sometimes give me an error message because it didn't like a space I put in or mistyping. So choose that there. Area times, and this works just as you could imagine in Excel, except without the equals. All right, so I've typed, I want area, and there's my factor. Just trust me, that says 1.055. I want to format as a number. I'm perfectly good. And because I don't need 2 decimal places, 0's fine for me, and I can include it in the totals. Okay. Okay. And there it is right here. But I really want that way up here. All I did there was pick and held and drug. So now it's there. Let me take this and now kind of get it way down here. And let me come in here and start. So now I've made the factor. So I can come in and use my area like I've used before. By the way, just a quick tip. If I had more pitches than 4 and 12, I would just have to create 2 calculating columns, one saying roofing area, 412, so on and so forth. So there would be some modification you would do. So tools, measure, area. And now because I have content added, there we go. And maybe this is 4 and 12 also. But notice here, this says metal canopy or a metal roof. So again, this is where I would want to do some other things, such as modifying up here, either a layer or a label or the subject. And it depends what you want to kind of do with it. So it really does. So I could label this one asphalt and this one metal. I think you get where I'm heading with this. All right, so let me select one more. And of course I could use my tool sets to do this also. All right, choosing one more over here. And I'm right now not doing a very good job of picking, but I showed you how you could do that. All right, so now I've got those 3. Now you'd say, okay, David, how special for you. You have all of this stuff done. How are you going to use it except here? Maybe I could use a legend, which I'll get into later, but no, I gotta get out to Excel with some of this. I said, so let me show you how to do that. Let me do just one thing real quick. Let me take these 3. All right, and let me make sure, because this is going to be important, that the subject is asphalt. Okay. Again, if I had more roofing types, I could do that and separate it out. But now, what I want to do is show you how to easily get the information out, which is just simply coming down here in the markup list and way over here to what I call the 3 dots. I don't know what you'd call it, maybe list A, call it summary. Okay. And I come right here to the first one, CSV, excuse me, summary. What's important is to come through here and make sure you pay attention to this, such as, do you want to give it a name? Do you want to add, there's a lot of people like adding a date to it. Okay. And maybe they like the file name to be something different than what's out of the box. So pay some attention here. Roofing takeoff with a dash date. Okay. I want to include, I don't want to, let's see, yep. All right, I'm fine there. But now here's the columns where people, I think it really messed up, which is, let's take this and this and this and this. Let me not miss my roofing, because then it'll be very bizarre. It's called roofing area. Let's undo all this just to begin with. There we go, roofing area and subject. Okay. Excellent. Right. And so I think I've got what I want. I wanted very little. I don't really need very much, right? And yeah, I could save that configuration and use it later on. So this is a way I could use it over and over again. Let's hit OK. Sorry about that. We're going to use that in a moment. This is the one we want. Okay. And if I'd worked at it a little harder, I wouldn't have even gotten this stuff in. I would have gotten the area. So it's very quick and dirty. It's in Excel. I can ship it to other programs, and it'll keep track the next time if there's changes, so on and so forth. So that's kind of the easy way, though not the way I would do it, but I want to show you if you're doing something quick and dirty, this is very easy to do in that way. Let's just get rid of that. We don't need that. All right. Now we'll use this a little later. All right. So that's dealing with the sort of calculated columns, and I could come in here and again, by the way, use my layer and get some of this other information out and fine tune it just a little. I think I've shown you how to do that. So let's now close this. We won't need that. Now let's look at this particular. I want to show you legends. Legends is a way I see a lot of customers doing a lot of way to get the information on the PDF. If that's your goal is I want to do quantity takeoff and I want to not have it be in Excel or anything else. I want to see it on that sheet because that's what we use. That's what I need it for. This has already some takeoffs done, as you can see, and subject has been set as flooring, and there's been this material item, including the cost per square foot. And so here down at this markup list, it's done a really great job of kind of taking these 5 or 6, and giving me a total. How nice. And I've seen people then try and do a screen capture and put it on. Well, gee, could do it that way. That just doesn't seem like the best way, especially if there's changes that are made. So how we do legends is edit, select all. So now it's done is selected all of those takeoffs that exist on this sheet. And it then says, do I want to create a new legend? And I just right mouse click, and there's legend. There's none that's been created. So we create a new one. And it creates a default one. And I could put this wherever I want to put it. I'm just going to put it here. And let's zoom in a little bit. Because I look at this and I go, gee, not really what I want. So again, the dynamic property toolbar really helps me go through that in the way that I can come in here and I could give it a subject, and maybe this isn't just a legend, it's a flooring takeoff. Okay. And I'm going to show you a little later on this, which is the current page and additional page. So I can do a legend that covers just the page I'm at, or I could do a legend that covers, let's suppose you have 10 floors of flooring and you want to calculate them all, not by floor, but by them all. Then the easiest way to do that is by clicking here, and you can all, or there's a custom, maybe it's only page 3, 5, and 7. So that's up in there. Right now, the current page is fine for me. Right. Title, I can change the title here to flooring takeoff. That changes, but the key part here that a lot of people slip by is these columns. So let's click on here. I have the ability to add and edit columns. So right now, I really want to change this. I really want it to, great typing job, David, but that's okay. What I really want to do is come in here and make sure I add material and subtotal. Hit OK just for a second. All right, that's better. Now let me come in here and remove some. Now that I've seen this here, I don't want description because I know it's what it is. All right, and let's just see. All right, and there should be in here somewhere the cost. I can't find it. If I were to add that, I'd be able to add that too, but that's okay. It also shows me the color, shows me the subtotal. I could have added the cost. Let's just see where the cost is at here as a, okay. Just look at the properties here and let's see where the, all right. We could also add the cost in here if I could find in these 2 seconds where it's at. But right now, this works for me right now. Okay. And now what I could do, as soon as I got my spelling fixed here, let me fix that spelling because I'm kind of particular to not misspell. Take off. There we go. Correct. Now what I can do here is I'm going to be doing this on several jobs. Notice here I can add it to my tool chest, and I can add it to QTO, and now here it is. So I could use it on other projects. So once I get this looking and feeling the way I want it to, I can do that. But what's really the best part of what I think of what Legends can do is that ability to modify based upon change. So let's just come right in here, and I'm going to put it right up here, only so I can see it. In fact, I think what I want to do now, let's just leave it down here. I apologize. Let's leave it right down here. And what I want to do is if I change. So first thing is let's suppose that this mother's room, instead of polished concrete, is going to be made into hardwood. So let's just keep track that polished concrete has 101 square feet and hardwood has 262. I can just come in right in here now. I've selected it. I can come in here and let me just make sure I did it correct. Let me just get my hardwood here. I tried to do it the easy way and it didn't work. So let's go here and add that to. Okay. Now let's do this way. Let's just delete it. And now let's add this in here. Got to change it to properties mode. Okay, there we go. And again, I could do a better job of picking, but you don't need to watch me pick. All right, now what you're going to see here is that this has changed. Okay. Now remember I showed you that it could do it over multiple sheets. So let me just change this. Remember it's changed up here. Instead of the current sheet, I'm going to do it for all the sheets. It's not going to change because my second sheet here's my second sheet it does have some stuff I didn't know that I did. So now this has been changed to include both sheets. So I'm able to do it across the entire project. I'm able to change it. It stays live. It stays within the PDF. Anyway, Sash, now that I got through that, questions about that I can clear up because of my lack of good picking.
I just had one question come through about, can you change the order of the columns in the legend?
Top down, you mean?
More, or even just reorganize the columns. Maybe you want the quantity first, then the color.
Yeah, so that's really here under the edit, and it was really under these buttons right here. I could have taken material. Let's make material first. Now the only thing I would have to do is save this back to my QTA. If this is the new way I want it, and I don't want to use this anymore, then let's delete that. And now that's the new way.
Yep, and that's a good reminder to everybody that if you add something to the tool chest and you manipulate the properties, you have to go back and kind of re-add that tool in order to update it.
And I can also I didn't really show messing around with the cells. I can add grid lines. There's a lot of things here. I didn't go down the list. So I suppose I want grid lines. And so I can continue to work on this overall to make it look and feel. So it's best to get that done first and not on the fly like I'm kind of doing it. But most companies know that some wouldn't want the colors, some would. So you can make that look.
And there was another question earlier, and I don't believe you're going to demo it, but I could address the
Sure.
question and a quick answer. So there was a question about kind of doing like an automatic count of certain types of elements, whether they're fire alarm devices, strobe lights, whatever it may be. And the quick answer to that, David had earlier had shown everybody kind of applying like a count measurement to some sinks. Bluebeam has this really neat feature in it called a visual search. So rather than going through a search of text, you can actually do a visual search. And this can be a time-consuming process, but you can see where David's at. Basically, you would drag a rectangle, or you can click multiple points if you want to get really precise. You would do a visual search for the entire PDF or a slew of PDFs, and Bluebeam's going to do its best and find elements that are of similar style. So it kind of does like a pixel by pixel kind of scan. It'll return a list, and then from there you can actually apply a count measurement to that. And sometimes if it misses one, you can edit the count measurement and manually add or remove a count measurement if it picks something that was not correct. And then from there, like what David had shown you, then you can make like a table like he did, so that you can kind of summarize that count. So you can see right there, David did a visual search. He can apply a count measurement to that. So
and some of that happens here through the sensitivity and this options. So correct. I can further modify it. I also,
yeah, and the more sensitive you go, the longer it's going to take.
And the more sheets you have and the more items you have, all those are factors.
Yep, exactly.
So here there's also some other options here that you can, so that's, but that doesn't get into our QTL. So visual search is something very powerful, but like with everything that's powerful, there's some danger, I guess is the best.
We all like danger.
Yeah. All right, so as we finish up here, let's talk about the direct link between Excel cells and review management data. Again, this is done in Extreme, and let me show you setting it up. So this quick slide on setting up quantity link. There's a connection that needs to be made. It happens through the review administrator plugins, which I've shown you here, kind of some screen captures to make sure that Microsoft Excel, quantity link right there that's highlighted right here. And again, this quantity link is only available if you have Review Extreme. So for those of you who are interested in this, who don't have Review Extreme, please reach out to your salesperson at ID Bluebeam, and they can certainly give you the cost methodology of going from standard or CAD up to Extreme. And it's certainly worth the dollars because you're going to see how this works. Let's go now, and let's close this. We're done with this. Don't save it. All right, so let's get rid of this. All right, I have this, as soon as it finishes loading here. I've done these takeoffs. I've even included, you can see here, the legend that I have here in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, I've done that, and so now I want to not do the legend anymore. I really want to do something that extends out to Excel, because we use a program that connects with Excel for doing our further estimating of the entire project. So I have Extreme. I've created the link. I've set it up. The next thing I have to do is, let me just show these side by side, is create a template. This template, there's nothing magical. In fact, the only three things that in this case is connecting to is the quantity in square footage. So these could change, meaning if tile today is not $5, it's $4.75 or $5.10. This is straight Excel kind of work. So I'm just really connecting these three, in this case, cells to this PDF. So let's show you how that's done. After I've gotten this set up, I take the cell that I want to connect, I right mouse click, and after you've made this connection in Excel, now you'll have a new thing at the top that says that, and I want to create a link. Now it's going to go through, going to make sure that I'm licensed correctly. If there is multiple files open, it'll ask me which file do I want to connect with. I have only one PDF open, so it kind of bypassed that step. All right, so again, the total is an area calculation of, and I want to make sure I say subject, because that's how I did these, as a subject, as tile and carpet and so on. So I come down here to, which one am I working on? Tile, okay. And there we go. Now I could add other, notice here there's more than one. So if there was several drop downs of further finality or minuteness, I could do that. It's also given me a title called tile cost. I say okay. It makes the connection. It took that 112 or 1,112 and did that. And I do the same thing again for these. I only need to do this once, and I'll go through these in just a second. Let me just do another one of these. Area of this polished concrete, which should be under the P's. Lucky me. Let's do the last one, and then I'll show you these options in the right-click menu. Notice I have other things I could pick from, but I've set this up this way. So you see how it says layer. Remember how I could have done it via layer, or I could have done via label. So there's lots of different ways I can do this. I'm doing this kind of the way the PDF has been set up. Last one is hardwood. Okay. All right, so it's taken these calculations of everything except the carpet, these three, and brought it over here. But let's now look here and look at these others. So I can, of course, edit it again, meaning that if I got it wrong or it changed somehow, I could edit it. All right. It also, I could delete it, meaning that connection is no longer. I can look at the source file. What source is it really looking at? What PDF? And see how it gave me the link file. See how I could add other files and other folders. I could pull from an entire set of PDFs or different PDFs in that way. But I don't need to do that, so cancel. And manage is another way in which it's actually showing me what I've done. So I get a review saying, I can come down here and go, okay, hardwood cost, level 2, okay, fine. Oop, the subject's wrong. I could then go in and change that. So I have a way of sort of making sure I've got it right. And I can check here to make sure the links are connected or disconnected at that time to make sure that I'm live between those two. And then in preferences, I get a chance to change this fill color if I want to. The gray was fine. And I could do these other kind of preferences. I'm fine here. All right, so now what I want to show you is, and I'm going to do what's easiest, which is to come in here and take one. And I want to make sure I take one that is not carpet, clearly. And so there it is. And let's suppose it's been deleted. You will see now that this changes and that will change, but this is what I'm interested in. It's an automatic link that goes through in the same way that if I were to add, I would add to that also. Anyway, that's a quick kind of review through that link process. And so, Saj, what I'd like to do is the final questions as we're heading towards the 12 o'clock hour here.
Yeah. Hey, David.
Hey.
Let's see, we did get a question. So one of them was, my question is for the quantity link with Excel. Is it possible to link a custom column? So this person uses custom columns to auto-calculate waste factor while doing takeoffs. Is it possible to link that info?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and that's yep. So there should be no issue there. So again, you could do, I suppose you could do it two ways, right? In Bluebeam, you know, as you're getting, you know, length information, if you have some sort of percentage, say, you know, 20% of that's going to be waste, you could certainly build a custom column in there.
That's
to
how
take
I would
that,
do it.
Yep.
Exactly.
Or you could take that length info out to the quantity link part of that Excel file and put another column in there that says, take this column, multiply it by 0.2. And, you know, that kind of takes care of that. There was another question, is there a way for us to push data to a drawing set or its custom properties from an external data set like Excel or an XML file? And
Long question. Maybe I missed the question. Rephrase the question for me unless you already have the answer.
Yeah, is there a way for us to push data to a drawing set or its
PDF? Okay.
I believe so, yep. Or its custom properties from an external data set like Excel or XML. So I think they want to push the
from Excel to the PDF.
Yep, over into the Bluebeam, into the drawing set.
I've never seen that done out of the box. Have you, Sash?
I haven't either, so it would be good to maybe get a little more understanding of that workflow, so we could certainly take that one offline. And then here's another good question too. Do both applications need to be open at the same time for the quantity the quantity link? So in other words,
when you make it the first time, yes. So,
right.
but not after that. Or if you're changing, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
let's just come back in here and
guess you could save it and close out of it.
So let's just, yeah.
Or actually, I guess maybe you can close the Excel file and keep the PDF open and then change some of the quantities.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't matter. The question is, would it do? Yeah, so let's save. And then what will happen when you click here, it still shows the link connected, though if you then try and do source file.
Yep, so that should work.
Yep. Now, clearly, if I'm really not a bright guy and do that, I've kind of, I've overridden. It's not a locked cell, but
yep. Okay.
That's why the coloring of the cell is important. And I use gray. You could use another color, of course.
Yep. And then let's see, does Review 2016 have the ability to calculate wall area? Yep, it should. Kind of the same way as David had pointed out with the poly length, you should also be able to get the wall area with the 2016 version. The markups for those have kind of remained unchanged, so that's good. And then let's see, can you carry the takeoff markups onto the revised sheet and adjust accordingly? Ooh, that's a good question, right? So, so as I understand it, you may have, let's say, a version 1 drawing, and then you have a version 2 drawing. There are ways to do that. So a couple ways is, if you like replace a sheet as an example, there is an option to transfer the markups to the new sheet. Or if you're doing like the slip sheeting, like a batch slip sheet, there is a way to transfer those markups over to the next PDF. So that way you don't have to redo this whole process, which can be quite time consuming. And then the last question that came through, is it possible to make a hollowed out polygon? My assumption is you're probably doing an area of a room, but there's a column in there and you want to subtract that out. And the answer is yes. Let's see, I'm trying to remember, there is a place to subtract when you're doing like the areas. There is a place to do that. And if you ever get a chance for some fun stuff like dynamic fill, and there are ways to account for that kind of hollowed out area.
Once again, let me encourage you to visit our website where you can check out our blogs and previous webinars, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. If you have any additional questions, comments, or recommendations for future webcasts, please email us at bluebeam@ideatinc.com. Thank you and have a good rest of the day.